Well, good evening, and welcome to our March 17th, 2015 Ogden City Council meeting, and happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you. I'll let the roll call reflect that all council members are present, with the exceptions of Councilmember Gochner, who is asked to be excused tonight. We will turn the time to Vice Chair White for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And if you would now please join us for a moment of silence. Thank you. We have 4 items on our request to be on the agenda tonight. The first is our state legislators from Northern Utah have been invited to report, and we noticed that Representative Peterson has shown up. Could you come up and give us your report? Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. Still recovering from the legislative session, so to put a suit on during the weekday is, I kind of shudder. Wear a suit all day. From this last session, I passed all the bills that I had proposed this session, and of those that you might find interesting was we passed a window egress bill, which kind of expanded the scope of existing law on basement egress windows. Previously, before the bill was passed, before a similar bill was passed back in 2011 and 12, city officials would be able to come in and enforce an expansion or an enlargement of a window in an old pre-existing residence. And so what we said was, well, prior to 2008, there were safety provisions put in place that were adequate and working, and we basically went back to that, saying this works, rather than forcing a cut into a foundation or an alteration of an existing older home to try to protect the older home and save the homeowner some cost in offering safety in their home. So that bill passed, sitting on the governor's desk now. We also passed a law dealing with RDAs, and it was a very simple technical clarification. The RDA code is so complicated and confusing, frankly, that we had 4 or 5 stakeholders at the table who couldn't decide on what the words meant, and we ultimately decided on sort of a makeshift clause to get us by until the RDA code can be redrafted, and there will be a working group this interim session dealing with that. So expect some changes in RDA code coming up soon. The good news is we were able to receive an appropriation from the state for unit reduction, and that's probably the best news to come from the session. We did request $2.5 million in that appropriation. The legislature was kind enough to give us $750,000 for unit reduction. And so that's going to be applied in $20,000 increments for homeowners who want to come into the neighborhoods here and reduce the unit count in some of the subdivided homes. And so that is my report. If you guys have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them for you.
Have any questions for Mr. Peterson?
Or if you have tomatoes to throw, you can do that too. Oh, no, I can duck.
But Jeremy, we do appreciate you representing our community, so thank you.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Well, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thank you.
I didn't see anybody else come in.
Mr. Chair, I think it should be noted that that $750,000 is just for the city of Ogden. Is that correct? So thank you very much for that.
they'll have one of those giant checks written that will come in July with the beginning of the fiscal year. So look forward to that.
And is that a grant process that you
So-
go through the state on?
So the state will be writing the city a check. Right now, I'm drafting the legislative intent for that. The city already has a unit reduction program, so it's going to follow those guidelines pretty closely with some maybe minor revisions on territory that it covers and obviously the size. The city's program has a $10,000 grant to homeowners who want to do that currently. That's just not enough to cross the market gap that exists between what the homes are worth now and what they would be worth as single-family homes. So the $20,000 does do that. It will bridge that gap, and that's what we've been trying to do for probably several years, but it's just been an issue of a lack of resources. So if we have some good results from this, we can go back to the legislature next year or maybe the year after that, after we have some real good data to show how that money was leveraged and vectored and demonstrate the economic development merit.
So one-time money this year?
Yep, it'll be here in July and will be available.
And Jeremy, what requirements are there for the person receiving that grant? Do they have to stay in the home for a certain amount of time, or?
Well, and that's one of the details we're talking about. It should be similar, will likely be similar to the Own in Ogden program, where there's a 5-year drawback. So it'll amortize off after 5 years to incentivize them staying. So it's not going to be a flip scenario, so to speak. The folks will want to stay in the home due to that. Also, it'll be geared towards owner occupants. The city might have access to the funds for some projects that are just impossibly upside down, but may be necessary in order to cure, a bed sore that exists in the neighborhood. Maybe a property that's just too much to handle for an owner occupant, or the free market can't make that work on its own. So the city should have some access to those funds, but it's mainly geared towards owner occupants.
Is it set for a certain area of the city, or is it throughout the whole city?
Well, the current unit reduction program is designed what they call the Jefferson Corridor, so between 27th Street and 20th Street, between Madison and Adams Avenue. That's the current existing program. My thoughts are that expanding that to Monroe down to Washington might make some sense, because there's some contributing properties, some historical homes in that zone that if homeowners want to move into and live there, I'd say more power to them.
All right.
Okay, I've exhausted your questions.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Golden Hours Advisory Committee presentation of the Sunset Report. So,
Chair, that will be Mr. Gene Erickson who will give the sunset report.
okay, great.
Bob Geyer, Supervisor, Golden Hours. First off, happy St. Patty's Day to everybody, and I'm glad to see everyone's greened up. We did have a little minor change that we've would ask your indulgence with on the ordinance.
We did receive they're not very substantial, just minor.
Very
cleanup items.
minor. It's just verbiage. And it is in the section 13-12-2 organization. Weber Human Services has asked us to change the board of directors out of that and just put in Weber Human Services, Department of Aging. And under,
There'll be a substitute
be a substitute.
ordinance that will include that, so thank you.
so,
Yep, we've got both of those, Bob.
Yes.
sorry, I was told to present it first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then I'd like to introduce Gene. He is the chair of our organization. Thank you.
Good evening, Council Chair and members and administrators. And about, my name is Gene Erickson, and maybe I'll just give you just a brief background. I've been associated with the Golden Hour Senior Center now going on 5 years, and also now, of course, I'm the chair of the Golden Hour Advisory Committee. And at this time, I would like to present the presentation of the Sunset Report. The Golden Hour Senior Center, serving the Ogden community since 1968, continued to provide outreach in the community and encourage participation at the center. And the volunteers and giving, it's just awesome what the volunteers have contributed over through the years, and since last year, there's been over 5,000 knitted items that have been handed out, and the recipients have been McKay Hospital, Salvation Army, Ogden Regional, the Wallen Home, Veterans Home, Ogden Rescue Mission, and the Christmas Box Home. And the Golden Hour Senior Center Advisory Committee objectives seeks opportunity to build additional partnership in the community to support and assist the center. This is the Golden Hours Veterans Group, which I'm part of, and it was formed approximately about 4 years ago. And it was for camaraderie for the veterans, as well as informing them of their benefits. And we support veterans from World War II all the way up through Afghanistan. And through the pictures here, these are some of the events that we participated in. The one on my right is our parade that we had in November, the Veterans Parade. The one in the center is when we went to Promontory Summit with our group, and the one on my far left is a group picture at Promontory Summit. Golden Hour Senior Center Advisory Committee objectives: solicit ideas from the Senior Center members and to strive to innovate in developing additional activities and programming. And here's holidays at the Golden Hour. I'm always amazed when I go into the center during holiday season and see how many people participate in Christmas, and even today we had St. Patrick's Day celebration, Easter, Halloween, and so it's being utilized very well through with all the participants that come in. Field trips at the Golden Hour. I participated on a few of these. We've been out to Hillfield. There's the one in the center again up at Promontory Summit, and some of the others, maybe we had...
We went to the horse exhibit down in St. Salt Lake, and also to some outlet stores.
Yes, and I think we did a trip up to Logan. We went to
Cache Valley.
So those are always fun to attend and very well received at the center. Golden Hour Senior Center Advisory Committee objectives: provide education for participants on current issues relevant to seniors, promote preventive health programs through exercise, fall prevention education, blood pressure checks, and the annual health fair, which will be coming up next month. And they have the real nice gym now that is being well utilized. And then preventive health, Wednesday, we always have different meetings throughout the month promoting different informational activities about knowing our Social Security benefits and possibly how to avoid fraud, and those are all being presented throughout the year. Exercise and recreation, I mentioned that, partly about the exercise. I utilize that at times. I could use it a lot more, but that's one of the big draws of the center, is to have the exercise room. And they have, it might mention here a little bit, I might be jumping the gun a little bit, they have a Zumba program going now. And was it Tai Chi? They actually have a Tai Chi program too. Golden Hour Advisory Committee and accomplishment. The facility interior has been repainted, computer lab upgraded, Wi-Fi was installed throughout the building, a new event, the senior prom, new exercise class with strength, flexibility, balance as key functions, have a certified senior exercise coordinator training exercise classes, established a large senior veterans group that enjoys periodic information on Veterans Affairs and Benefits, and veterans created a float for the Veterans Day Parade and and participated. And this one is Golden Hours Advisory Committee accomplishments: purchase new equipment for the gym, the athletic room, establish a Zumba, there I brought it up again, class once a week for our members to use, jamming at the center, in which local musicians, artists perform at the center, offering a free evening of music for our seniors, and establish field trips for the seniors to locate venues, including the following: Ogden Nature Center, Cache Valley Cheese Run, Bear River Refuge, and Mrs. Fields Cookie Factory, Hill Air Force Base Museum. And I had Promontory Summit on there too, that we didn't get on there. Promote Golden Hours facility enhancements. These are some of the things that we would like to see incorporated in the coming years. The center's parking lot, that'd be repaving, is that right, Bob? Repaving the parking lot. Expand security camera system, replacement of furniture at the center, remodel front desk to be ADA, American Disability Act friendly, installation of a large screen TV in our education room. And Golden Hour Senior Center Advisory Committee goals continued: install new shade covers, new tables and benches, install speakers in the patio area, digital marquee, develop a senior appropriate exercise cross fitness track in the Lester Park. If anything that I could probably sum up in one sentence about the Golden Hour Senior Center would be, it's a home away from home for our seniors. And I'd like to end with, does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Erickson?
We're glad you're there.
Thank you.
Looks like that's all the questions we have. Thank
Okay.
you for your presentation.
Okay.
Appreciate your
Thank you very
your work
much.
there.
Can I believe, introduce Paula's here. Paula's with the Weaver County Department of Aging, okay? She is a partner with us, of course, okay? And I don't think we have any other members today. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any discussion about the extension of the sunset provision for the ordinance?
Seems there's,
Mr. Chair, please note that there's been a substitute ordinance with
Right.
those two changes that were mentioned.
I will mention both of those.
Thank you.
So with that, I will make a proposal that we adopt proposed ordinance 2015-7 with the following two suggestions or changes. And under 3-12-2 organization under membership, that we change it from Weber Human Services with Board of Directors to Weber Human Services Department of Aging, and also the Golden Hour Center Director to the Golden Hour Center Supervisor.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Garner, seconded by Vice Chair White, to adopt ordinance 2015-7. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Councilmember Garner.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Heyer.
That passes unanimous. Good luck for another few years.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your work there. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Ogden Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee presentation of sunset report.
That sunset report will be given by Mr. Brandon Egan.
Welcome.
Good morning, or good evening. Very good. So I want to go over just a little bit about who we are as a committee and what we've done over the past few years, and what we're doing and our goals for the future in the Sunset Committee. So who we are, this is a dynamic group, and this is what started predominantly as a bunch of Little League coaches, myself included, has really rounded out to be a great cross-section of citizens who have varied interests in outdoor recreation. So and this is a great group, what we have right now. So such interests include lacrosse, cycling, climbing, baseball, kayaking, trail running, soccer, sand volleyball, and even more. So this is the committee member list as it stands right now. And we work closely with the Ogden Parks and Recreation Committee. So what we've done over the past couple of years, our meetings have facilitated community feedback, and our input contributed to many accomplishments, including, as you see here, Monroe pickleball courts are in process of being built right now. The Bonneville Jazz basketball court up there by 2nd Street is utilized on a daily basis, very successful, as well as we've supported special events, the high school all-star baseball games. We were showcased here, brought in a bunch of folks into our community. The Ogden Climbing Festival was something that I believe Danielle Turner brought to the attention and made that happen. The jazz appearance with the Junior Jazz and so forth. The 4th Street Ball concession stand has been completely remodeled. And everything that we do not only enhances our citizens' quality of life, as well as bringing, a lot of these things bring others into our community. Much of what we've been able to do has been because of the RAMP funds. They've allowed us to not only add new rec opportunities, such as the pickleball courts that I mentioned, but also allow us to ensure future generations may enjoy our parks and be able to maintain, such as the top dressing machine that we acquired a few years ago. So some of these RAMP projects, again, I mentioned the pickleball courts, the Larn Farr Pavilion upgrade, trail system signage, the Centennial Trail above the MCC Park, the 4th Street Ballpark lighting, and the new volleyball courts. We're excited about that, and we're excited about the opportunities that brings into our community. The Ogden River Adventure Park Phase 2, Weber River Restoration and Pavilion, and so forth. So overall, we're really an enthusiastic cross-section of the community that help ensure that Ogden City is a great place to live and to visit. So the committee, we meet every 3rd Wednesday, and we review the recreational needs of the community, which fall within the realm of the Recreational Division and the Public Ways and Parks Division. We're also linked with other Ogden City committees, such as the Trails Committee, and takes part in the approval process for projects including the city's recreational activities, facilities, trails, and parks. The Parks Recreation Committee held a number of meetings to define the purpose, duties, goals in the committee. These established goals and duties have provided direction for the community, or for the committee itself. Some of the issues we've discussed and support include the Ogden soccer field. Wait, I'm ahead of myself here. Let's see, I'm behind. Okay. The Ogden soccer field improvements, and the importance. This is such a huge part of our community. They just get used extensively. So the importance is to need to improve and help sustain soccer fields throughout Ogden was realized by this community, or by this committee, and efforts to achieve this goal supported through discussion regarding the incorporation of portable goals as a possible solution and approval of the number and placement of the equipment. We've also discussed improvement to baseball facilities at Miles Goodyear Park, which has come so long since, and so far since the river wiped it out a couple of years ago. But we're talking about replacing the dugouts, and let's see. Okay, so that pretty much summarizes that. So some of the events that we've supported as a committee. The Make a Difference Day, Arbor Day, Utah High School All-Star Baseball Games, as I mentioned, the Climbing Festival, the Jazz Player Appearance. And I feel like the last 3 years, we've been able to accomplish all of this and really figuring out how, as a committee, we work together, how we work with the Ogden Parks and Recreation staff themselves, and we are in a really good place to be value added for the next 3 years. Some of our goals include support the development and implementation of high adventure sports as we have, continue to support and explore alternative funding sources for park and recreation projects such as CIPs and RAMP grants, continue to support recreation programs and leagues for youth and adults, including host more events at Lindquist Park and sand volleyball. One of our new candidates is really heavily into sand volleyball park, and she brings a renewed enthusiasm into the committee. Continue to support the growth and improvements of the Ogden Trails Network. Another of our candidates is with the trails. Which is she? Which trails? So she's with the Ogden Trails Network. Continue to work with the community organizations to improve park and recreation facilities within Ogden City, including the installation of additional outdoor basketball courts, such as I mentioned we've done at Bonneville Park. It's been extremely, extremely successful. You go up there any time of evening, and it's being utilized. Kayak park improvements. This is really exciting and something that's near to my heart and Nathan's heart. When we diverted the river down underneath the viaduct there, we lost that asset. And so we want to get back to improving it and making it a destination for kayakers. We want to look at the possibility of having inflatable a ballast, if you will, or a bladder that will allow the river to become functional at all levels, not just when it's high, but at lower levels as well. So it can be a play wave, and some communities, such as neighboring Boise, has been very successful in doing this. So we want to look at that. We've talked about having a river festival and having more ways to really leverage that resource that we have here. Continue to work with community organizations to improve park and recreation facilities. Let's see, I'm sorry. So the Mount Ogden soccer field enhancement, like I mentioned, we've got a top dresser. We have all intentions of grading that so that it irrigates properly, and then top dressing that so that no one gets hurt and utilizing that asset. Baseball backstop upgrades. Some of our diamonds doesn't do its intended job of stopping the baseballs. They go right through. So that's on our list of things to do. And simply just as a committee, we're talking tomorrow, as soon as tomorrow night, getting together and identifying what we have and what's in disrepair, such as the playground equipment, and improving upon those assets. think that's it. Any questions I might answer?
Any questions?
I'm quite interested in that River Festival. I think that has a lot of interest there. But could you touch on if we're seeing more Latinos or minority groups participating in our programs in the recreation?
In our programs? Certainly the soccer programs that we have going on with the new soccer fields and improving of those. I don't know demographic-wise. Are you talking in terms of the Latino population as a whole, or in Little League, or?
Yeah, the numbers of the youth that are participating in that.
I'm going to defer to Ed. Do you happen to know that, Ed?
Sorry. Yeah, we're seeing the numbers increase of that demographic into our youth sports programs. And just coming right now, we're in junior jazz to where we've seen that rise.
Do we track ethnic data? So how do we know? If you say there's a rise, if we're not tracking that, how do you know?
As far as visually seeing and talking to people, as we're out there and talking, and I get out there with them and I visit the practices and I'm at the games, and so knowing the residents.
Brandon, yesterday we opened up the Ogden swimming pool. Will they be participating with you in this recreation, like with their water polo or some of their other activities?
I believe that is tied in with, do you know that?
Water polo at Ogden Pool, will that be through the recreation or through the school district, or?
Yeah, there's
Sorry.
Yeah, there's a third party that's been hired out there to do it for the residents of Ogden.
Okay.
So
It's pretty impressive, so.
Yep.
So this question's maybe more for staff. If there are requests for CIP funds for recreation-related projects, do those come through you and they end up coming back to us through the CIP process, or how do those?
Yep.
And the Serge Simmon Field, will that be ready this summer?
We anticipate that it will be.
Okay.
That it'll be
It was
ready.
good to see your pictures on it.
Yep. You'll see that sod's been laid to it, the infield's been done, and so.
And along the lines of non-traditional sports, anything with lacrosse or disc golf?
Actually, we've talked a lot, considerable time spent on lacrosse. Tony, who's actually, I'm our chairman, Tony, his son, he travels all over with lacrosse, so it's very near and dear to him. And one of the things that we spoke about just the very last meeting was the usage of soccer fields and the dimensions and how they apply to lacrosse. So optimally, what we would love to have happen is to have is to be able to facilitate lacrosse tournaments where we're bringing in others into our community, and they're coming in here and they're staying, they're spending money, and so on and so forth. So not only is it helping our community, but it's helping the city as well economically.
Do we work conjointly with other communities such as North Ogden or Roy to strengthen our programs, where there may be a program that we could not actually participate in, but maybe they would, that would enhance our program also?
We do combine with other cities for various of our programs, such as baseball. We'll combine with them. For junior jazz, we combine with other groups, and some of them we'll just run a tournament at the end and invite all of the cities to participate in that. But it depends on the program. But we are combining with the outliner cities, and we combine with anyone from South Weber, Riverdale, South Ogden, Washington Terrace, Roy, Layton.
We have discussed disc golf as well. We have a subcommittee that's addressed that need, and I believe I've kind of lost track on where we left off with that. Initially, it was an issue of having a large enough park. Obviously, everyone wants to go toward Mount Ogden, but Mount Ogden Park is already heavily utilized. We seek as a group to utilize other assets that are maybe being underutilized currently. So,
And staff is talking to some groups about that are specifically interested in that, to looking at where the best place is to put that. So hopefully we'll have some news fairly soon.
Well, Mr. Chair, yeah, and just to note as well, we're in the midst of a countywide recreation master plan that will be looking at all of the cities that want to be involved to interact, and we're in the process of selection of a consultant right now.
Thank you. About the use of parks, it's my recollection that there was more activities like soccer, for instance, used to go on all over the city and seems to have condensed. Can you give us a reason why that happened, or is it because, what is the reason?
So we have UYSA and we have AYSO that use our soccer fields regularly. And I meet with both groups, and they kind of just give a request of where they would like to be, where the places that they'd like to participate. And then we see first there about facilitating them. And so far we've been able to accommodate them in the parks that they'd like to participate in.
It's, with the overuse, I'm going to call it overuse of Mount Ogden Park, it would seem that we would maybe push that a little harder to push it into some of these other neighborhoods. For one thing, it would benefit the neighborhoods that are currently underserved with those kind of programs, and it would also benefit Mount Ogden Park at the same time.
I think that you'll see.
We did that last year.
Yeah.
They moved a lot last year, and it really worked out well. And Mount Ogden Park won't be as overused once the new soccer field behind the administration
Right,
building in
that's
Ogden
true.
City
Yeah.
Schools.
Soccer fields, that in and of itself is huge. And then we have the new pickleball courts going in at that.
Has things like softball kind of gone away, doing much less of that than there
A
used to be?
significant decrease in adult softball, and that's been seen across the state. I think 2 years ago when I talked to St. George, they were down just over 40 teams from the year before. And
So 4th Street's pretty well taking care of everybody's needs, is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, we play a lot of softball and baseball at 4th Street.
Great, thank you. Right. All right. Thank you
Brandon
so
and
much.
Ed, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2015-8, extending the sunset provision for Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee to March 15th, 2018.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Stevens, to extend the sunset to March 15th, 2018. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Garner.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks.
Aye.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Heyer.
Aye. That passes. Thank you very much, and good luck for another 3 years. Look forward to great things. Looking forward to that disc golf. I'm kind of anxiously awaiting that, so I think I'm in good enough shape to do that. All right. Next item on our agenda is approval of minutes. The first is the work session of November 18th, 2014. Councilmember Stevens.
Yes, Mr. Chair, they're correct.
And then the joint study session and work session of January 6th, 2015. Councilmember Garner.
Yes, Chair Heyer, I've reviewed those minutes and found them to be correct.
Then of the regular meeting and work session of January 20th, 2015. Councilmember Wicks.
Thank you, Chair Heyer. I reviewed those minutes and found them to be correct.
And finally, the joint study session, special meeting and work session of February 10th, 2015. Councilmember Blair.
Yes, thank you. I reviewed those 3 meetings, the minutes for those 3 meetings, and found them to be accurate. And with that, I would make a motion that we adopt the minutes outlined here in items A, B, C, and D.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Garner to approve the minutes. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Or any opposed? Thank you. Next part of our agenda is common consent. We have 4 items on there. And so we'll look for a motion for the common consent agenda.
I will make a motion that we adopt items 6A, B, and C for approved reappointments and appointments to the committees, and also to adopt item 6D and the resolution for the Weber County paramedic contract.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Garner, second by Councilmember Blair, to approve items A, B, C, and D. And this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Garner?
Aye.
Vice Chair White?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. And that passes. Next is public hearings. First for a mid-year fee amendment for the golf courses. And I guess it's you.
That'll be Todd. I just got a hole-in-one Brinkman.
Someone who knows big checks very well.
Thank you, Chair Heyer, Vice Chair White, council members, and administrators. It's a privilege to be here tonight. I'll make this brief because I know we have spent quite a bit of time in a couple prior work sessions, but our two golf courses, as you know, are two of the greatest assets we own. The most highly developed green space we have, wonderful form of recreation for individuals, families, wonderful avenue for raising dollars for charity, but they do cost a lot of money to maintain. And occasionally, we do have to raise fees. And this is the first fee proposal since 2009, and each year our cost of operating has gone up, but it is time to look at the proposed $1 per 9 fee increase to help keep pace with operating expenses. We made a couple of adjustments to our punch card offerings, which did raise it slightly, but we build in a bigger savings. So the normal incremental raise, they would go up. We reduced that percentage. So now those folks that invest in punch cards have a better savings. And of course, junior rates remain unchanged because our goal is to grow golf in the community. And we feel it very important that we hold rates for juniors to make sure that we ensure that we keep those golf courses very busy for generations to come.
On your punch card, what part of the business is that? Is that a big section of your fees coming into the course, the punch card?
Yes, punch cards. So we basically have your daily regular fee. We have punch cards where people can buy golf at a discount, and then season passes that allow those that really love to play to cover the cost over a season.
So you're seeing a large increase in participation in the punch card?
Yeah, and I think we will, because now people who buy those punch cards, they like saving money, and it was usually $1 a round that they'd save over the daily rate. Now they're going to save about $1.60 a round, and so I look as that for an opportunity there to sell some additional passes, and we want to give great value, and so I think that'll really be popular.
Thank you.
You bet. And as with any rate proposal, we do a very good market study, which we talked about in the work session. And so this raise will get us just up to what the local market has already been for the last year, but still keeps us well below the Davis County courses and quite a bit below Salt Lake City. So our residents, I believe, are still getting a fantastic value. It's all about the product, and it's very competitive in the golf business, so the better product we can put on that table will help keep the golf fund in very good financial condition. And just in closing, those that have already had heard about it in the newspaper, as we've talked about it a little bit, have seen all of the improvements we've been doing over the last couple of years. And by and large, the feeling has been, well, it's about time. You've been great to hold the rates for a long time, and you're obviously reinvesting in the courses. So the feedback has been very positive.
That's good. Any more questions for Todd?
Seems like you're having year-round golf up there.
Yes.
That's got to have helped the bottom line. All winter long, people.
It was a record January, a record December, January, February, and March is getting started off nicely. Yeah, we only had about 18 days downtime this winter is all, and so our players have really loved it.
Your skiers don't.
No, and ironically, a lot of people that have come to this town, I've met a lot of people from the East Coast trying to get out of that brutal winter back there, and they all came to ski but decided, let's play golf instead. The weather's so nice. So yeah, we've sold a lot of green fees to skiers this winter.
I'm sure a lot of people on the course, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Unless there are other questions, could we get a motion?
Well, we need public hearing.
You have to
It's a public hearing.
public comment on it.
Public hearing. Yes, we'd like to hear from the public on this. If you have comments about this petition, please come forward. Okay, thank you.
Okay, seems there's no movement on that. I'll make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2014-47.
Second.
Mr. Chair, you have to close the public
Oh,
hearing.
that's right, sorry.
I'll make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second?
Okay, we're going to postpone that first motion for this second motion, which was to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, and now we have a motion on the
Golf course.
golf course fee amendment, made by Councilmember Garner, seconded by Councilmember Blair, and this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Garner?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair White?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. That passes. Thank you. And the next one is for a fiscal year 2015 budget amendment. And,
Laurie Johnson will be presenting.
okay, Ms. Johnson?
Good evening. This budget opening under consideration this evening accomplishes 4 specific purposes. And the first is to recognize revenue received for grants and donations during the first half of the current fiscal year. And this accounts for the bulk of the budget opening. The total budget opening is for $504,582. And this category accounts for $415,000 of the total budget opening request. The second is a housekeeping item, transferring a little over, just under $67,000 of the percent for art funds from enterprise funds into the percent for arts account. So it's kind of a housekeeping item that has to be done yearly. The third is to transfer $22,000 from the current Union Station renovation design CIP project to an account established in the last fiscal year to assist the Union Station with the payment of utilities. And the fourth is to reduce the contribution to the Risk Management Fund retained earnings in the amount of $291,500, of which $65,000 of this amount would be used to fund the request for proposal process associated with and associated research for this new city ERP. And the rest of that funding would be done to upgrade the elevators in the Muni building. And with that, I request adopt the ordinance to adopt this budget opening. And before that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Johnson?
Covered it well, thank you.
Can you explain the negative 291?
What that is we reduced what just as I mentioned on the fourth one, we reduced the 291,500 going into retained earnings. So it's a reduction in the risk management fund and an increase in the general fund, and that's why it's neutral. As far as because both are included in this current fiscal year budget, that's why it's neutral on the fiscal impact. And I probably made that clear as mud, but, okay, any other questions?
Any other questions?
Neutral sounds good.
Neutral's good. Yeah. Thank you. Well, this also was a public hearing, so if you have any comments about this proposal, please come forward.
Seeing no movement, I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion, Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Garner to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I think we did that one better.
With that, I'll make a motion now to adopt proposed ordinance 2015-6 for the budget amendment.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Garner, seconded by Councilmember Blair to adopt ordinance 2015-6. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Garner?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Vice Chair White?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye, that passes also. Next item is item 8, reports from the Planning Commission. Guess we'll hear from Mr. Montgomery.
Mr. Chair and members of the council, you have before you tonight a petition that has been filed with the city to consider rezoning the south east corner, well, south, yeah, corner of Shallow Valley Drive and Harrison Boulevard. Property is commonly been referred to as the Richards property. There's a home that sits on the property. It's a large parcel. And several years ago, an individual desired to purchase the property, came through the city, rezoned the property to R3 to allow an assisted living facility. That was done under a plan amendment that took place back then that we involved the general neighborhood in to determine whether or not it's appropriate to have a different zone on the corner than the rest of the neighborhood, which is zoned R110. At that time, it was determined appropriate for the corner on condition that if it is rezoned, it would be rezoned with a conditional overlay. That zoning took place, as I mentioned, several years ago. The project never happened, and the property then was rezoned back to the R110 zoning, which is what it is presently. Well, there's a new proposal now, and so Mr. Michael Wright petitioned the city to consider rezoning this again to R3 with a conditional overlay for an assisted living facility. This assisted living facility is a much smaller scale than the previous one. This is a illustration of that first project done several years ago. You can kind of get an idea, 4 separate buildings, Shallow Valley Drive here, Harrison Boulevard located here. The proposal now is for one building, which would have 36 private units and 27 memory care beds in it, so a much smaller facility. One building pushed more towards Harrison Boulevard, retaining the existing home located here, as well as a lot of the vegetation that exists along the east property line. As the Planning Commission reviewed this and had their public hearing on the rezoning and the conditional overlay, they listened to the concerns of the neighborhood. The main concern that was brought up was access off of Winchester Drive, which comes here, which serves as access to the home. The concern was that this not be used as access for the assisted living facility, and that if there's any way to do further restrictions to isolate that home from the other facility. In the recommended development agreement, one of the conditions is that home cannot be used for any activities associated with the assisted living facility, and that access is limited only to the home and the use of the home as a home. You'll notice that in the voting of this recommendation, there was one vote that they voted no in making a recommendation. They felt the home should actually be on a separate lot to ensure that it stay as a single-family home and not become part of the development. But the majority of the Planning Commission felt that having it as a condition that it all be one property, but the home use and the access off Winchester Drive be related only to the home was sufficient protection for the neighborhood. There's some other discussion about vegetative plans, retaining vegetation. The plans that are developed in the development agreement show keeping a lot of the vegetation that exists along Harrison Boulevard now, keeping the stands of trees along Shallow Valley Drive as well as those along the east property line and the south property line, and limiting the amount of impact this building would have. The development agreement also contains in it an illustration showing the proposed building. Some of the recommendations that are added in the development agreement include having the stacked stone, which is an item depicted on portions of the building, have that run as a band along the full first floor of the building. Have the windows try to relate more to the neighborhood and be rectangular in shape rather than rounded. But the overall feeling was that this proposed development, in terms of the general plan, which talks about this is an optional use in this location, as long as it reflects the neighborhood in design, that it reflects the character of the land and its topography. The Commission felt that the proposal does meet those standards that were adopted earlier on in the community planning process. After discussion on the item, the Planning Commission is recommending to you approval of the rezoning the property from R110 to R3 CO with a conditional overlay development agreement. And the development agreement outlines the conditions that were established as far as restricting the use of the home, access on Winchester Lane, the materials of the building that's proposed, and also vegetative plans of retention and how to retain the vegetation so it's not disturbed during construction. With those recommendations, their majority vote is to approve the item that's before you tonight.
Any questions for Mr. Montgomery?
Just primarily for public information, will you go back one page on your overlay and just talk about the access? We talked about the access off of Winchester for the single-family home, and then off of Shadow Valley Drive will be the access into the parking and access off of Harrison?
There will be no access off of Harrison. Shadow Valley Drive will be the point of access, and it'll be located at a point where you've got good visual of the arc that comes down into Harrison Boulevard. Of course, one of the advantages that's taking place now is the signal that happens at Shadow Valley Drive. That helps in terms of slowing traffic down as it's coming into approaching the west. The location also with the parking being between Harrison and the building also serves as a good buffer. As you notice in the previous design, the parking is really up more towards the neighborhood, and only the trees act as a buffer. Now the topography of the building all act to help buffer whatever vehicle activity is taking place on the site. So that key access there is away from the majority of the residential development, which is further to the east. There's limited access only to the home, which is something that is a tradition of how to get access to the home, so that doesn't disturb the neighborhood. We feel this really kind of addresses neighborhood issues and not having an impact to the neighborhood. The assisted living facility is probably one of the least traffic generated uses that can happen on that corner, and so that also is a benefit to the area.
Can you give us the distance from the intersection to the access there on Shadow Valley?
It's roughly about 200 feet.
And that's adequate footage there.
You covered that well, thank you.
About the relationship between the home, I guess it's going to be continued to be used as a home. Is that my understanding?
My understanding from Mr. Wright is, they were looking at that either as renting the house out. They hadn't quite figured out, do they want to rent the house? Do they want to subdivide it? Right now, their proposal is keep it all as one piece of property.
Will they be fencing between the two uses, or?
No, the vegetation and some of the topography work that will take place will really act as a separation between the home and
I see. So they really won't
facility.
have, it's not going to be a caretaker going to live in the home and work over there, and?
Again, that's one of the things that cannot be related with the assisted living facility. So
Okay, that's good.
It couldn't be that type of facility.
And so that's probably the difference between the prior petitions before, is they were going to take the home down and?
Correct.
Okay, so that sounds good. Okay, thank you.
And does the,
go ahead.
Does the overlay go right up to the property of the house now, or how does that?
Well, so the overlay would include the entire parcel.
Okay.
And so all those conditions relate to the entire parcel.
I'd like to go back to the home. If they decide to sell that in the future, is that a problem for this area?
No, they could really subdivide that property off and sell it as a home even under the R3. They'd probably have to do an amendment. Well, no, they wouldn't have to do an amendment at that time because, again, it's still single-family use. So they'd be fine that way.
So they would not come back to us as an amendment?
No, they could just do it as a subdivision and still keep the overlay zone on it.
Is it clearer to have two separate parcels or just one? Chicken and the egg?
Yeah, it all depends what you're trying to accomplish. There's no right answer that way. I think the development agreement provides the safeguard to the neighborhood that it cannot be associated with the operation of the rest home, of the assisted living facility. So I think that development agreement, because it affects the zoning of the property, is a good approach to it. Separating it off is also another approach, but I think they both get the same purpose.
At this point, it's probably no benefit to try to do the other approach.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like we'd be kind of backing up and.
Yeah, where you have that condition already into the development agreement, if you approve it, then I think it's sixes.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Montgomery? Okay, thank you. I would like to receive input on this, if you have any comments or that you'd like to give the council.
Or is the petitioner here and wants to say anything? Or?
Oh, it looks like we do. Welcome.
Chair, council members, Mike Wright with Giza Development. Just here to answer any further questions. Greg has done a fabulous job of talking about our project.
How long will it take to develop the project?
About 12 months.
You're really going to do it this time?
Well, we weren't involved last time.
I know.
Finishing what I start.
Great. That is good news. Okay. Thank you for that.
Any plans for the home there? What ideas do you have for that home? Because that's going to be there. It's vacant already, as I understand, and that could be a problem for your area.
Yeah, the residents have said that there have been a few problems there with some college parties, but we would like to remodel the home and just rent it out to a single family.
Any other questions?
Any feedback from the community members around there regarding what you're doing or the project?
We have had discussions especially with those on Winchester, and I think as long as we keep the home as a home, I think we are favorable with them.
And the other project, the
Assisted living, they didn't seem to have any problem with. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay. Look for motion.
I will make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2015-9.
second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Garner, seconded by Vice Chair White to adopt ordinance 2015-9. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Garner?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks? Aye. Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Vice Chair White?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. And that passes. All right. We are at the item in our agenda where we receive public input. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas. Please state your name and address clearly for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. The only movement I see is heading for the door, so. Administration, any comments from?
Just a couple comments. We had a lot of work done for the legislative session. Specifically, Mr. Gary Williams, Mr. Buxton, Mr. Stratford, Chief Matthews, Chief Asherman, and the mayor spent a fair amount of time down. And fact is, on one major initiative, I think Mayor Dolan from Sandy and Mayor Caldwell actually rescued the item from dying. So it was a great effort on our team. We're very proud of the local option transportation tax, which we'll have an opportunity to support, and hopefully the county will put on the ballot maybe as early as even November. That will mean a substantial amount of ongoing money potentially to Ogden City, which we desperately need. We calculated that we're about $50 million behind on roads, sidewalks, curb and gutter. So we really need that. And along with that, the Senate amended the bill to add a 5-cent gas tax increase, which will go into effect January 1, which will be, a fair amount of money to us also. So we were very happy with the transportation piece of this session. Union Station got some utility money, which we're really grateful that that came about. The union unit reduction money, Jeremy didn't take a lot of credit, but that was an amazing feat he pulled off to be able to get that money, and we were very grateful. Mark Stratford, I was told by many of the water people down at the legislature that we wouldn't have had a water bill that they've been trying to do now for 4 years without Mark Stratford, and that he was one of the best minds in water in the state of Utah, and a lot of compliments given to him. And we successfully defended the city on 2 good landlord bills that would have impacted us quite dramatically. So all in all, it was a very good session. We put a lot into it, and I want to compliment a couple council members who spent a lot of time keeping track of what was going on. We're involved with the Chamber Legislative Committee, and we are grateful for the help that we got from that.
All right, thank you. Council members, any comments?
I'll
Okay.
make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Just as a reminder, immediately following this meeting, we will have a city council work session, followed by a redevelopment agency work session, and the items to be discussed are on the agendas for those meetings.